Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Living in the Limelight, an Anton, Scholl and Friends podcast where we discuss music from the artist and fan perspective. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. All right, welcome to another edition of Living in the Limelight. I'm your host, Anton Scholl, and with me today is my special co-host, Stephy Walker. How are you? Hey,
I'm great. Good to see you.
Yes, good. How are you? How's everything going?
Good. Life's good. Yeah.
Good. Anything new going on this week with the concerts and goings? I believe, didn't you just see Voyager?
I saw Voyager and Color of Chaos for one song last night.
Oh.
Made it there late, but yeah, Voyager is amazing. And I'm going to Megadeth.
Ah, that's cool.
I don't listen to Megadeth, but
I've never seen Megadeth, but the story is cool behind them as far as with being in Metallica and then, kind of going off, getting in his own group and all the stuff that happened in between and the fighting, the infighting, and all of the people that are like, taking sides, Megadeth, Metallica, and, the whole breakup and then the getting back together again and reconciling the differences. It's a classic rock and roll story.
I just heard about that. I didn't know anything about it. So
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
An experience, an adventure.
Right. Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. And I've never seen Megadeth. I have seen Metallica.
Yes.
Metallica puts on a great show.
Yes.
Would have probably liked to have seen them before they were famous, because I'm being told that they really put on some cool shows in some of the, the Cliff Burton days back in the day. That they really put on some really good shows. But the one I saw was nice. They switched instruments and jammed, and it was just a really fun show. They definitely put on a great show.
That's great. Where was that at?
It was in Chicago, and I think it was only them. I think they did the entire show. But yeah, it was really good, very entertaining. Very cool. The audience was nuts. It was really, it was right when they came out. I believe it was with the Black Album. So it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
That's good. So What are we doing here today, Anton?
I don't know. What are we doing here today? We're here to have some fun. We're here to talk about music.
Here to talk about music, but no, we're switching things up. Today, we're going to talk about you.
Oh, me?
Yes, you.
Who am I?
Who are you? You've been talking about all of us and getting to know all of us. Now we need to get to know you. So how do you like that? You like that?
That's interesting. I've never been on the other side of it before. So it'll be kind of fun. I'll see how it feels being on the other side. I always have to talk to the guests first, and make sure they're not nervous. And when I ask them questions, they're always nervous about, well, I'm going to ask them a question that they're not going to be able to answer, or they're going to be embarrassed by something. And now I'm sitting here and I am getting the exact same feeling. So,
well, it's going to be good. You're going to have fun. And I'm not going to do anything real crazy. So you're safe with me.
All right.
I've never done this either. So it's a learning experience for both of us.
Very good. So then I guess it's your show then. You take it away and you tell me what to do.
Oh, I like that. I should hear that every day. You have been in the music industry for a very long time. How old were you when you were like exposed to it, or like knew that this was your love? Like how did that work in your life?
Well, when I was very young, it was probably, I have to say that when I was about 10 years old or so, I would always hang out with the people next door. and the people next door, I used to hang out at their house, or across the street from our house, and used to hang out at their house. And then one day they started the musicians came over, and they started lugging all this equipment down into the basement, because we always used to play in the basement. And all of a sudden, the father comes down and says, "Hey, we're going to practice." And I'm like, "All right, I don't know what you're talking about, but okay." And this guy started bringing drums down the stairs, and then they started bringing a bass guitar, an amplifier, and all this. And it was, my friend's father, who was the singer and the guitar player in the band. And I sat there and watched them, and I thought, this is so cool. I got to do something like that. It was just so neat to see them play and to see them put their music together and to see them perform, practice, put songs together, talk about songs, talk about how they're going to do it on stage. And it was really neat. And I actually was, just impressed with the guitar.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, did that inspire you to pick a certain instrument that you wanted to play?
Yeah, of course, I think that when I was younger, I think in my day, everybody wanted to be a guitar player. And it was just one of them things that, you saw the guitarists out there, you saw the guitars, you saw the guitar players, and it was like, that's what I want to do. That's so cool. But honestly, in the very, very beginning, I didn't even start with instruments. I was listening to music, and oddly enough, the first people that I really listened to was probably Elton John. And believe it or not, here it comes. I've never said this before. Barry Manilow.
Oh, so I know a couple rockers in the scene that are Barry Manilow freaks. So you're in good company. Like, Barry Manilow is kind of the man.
Well, it turned out that, over the years, the thing that I was fixated on, and I didn't realize it at the time, was key changes, chord changes, how he wrote the songs, and really the music of the songs. And of course, the kind of melodic, the melodies he was putting together in the songs that he wrote. And I think that really kind of got me. And then I had gone over to my brother's house years ago, and my brother used to be very much into the stereo and albums, and was always telling me, the albums sound fantastic. And he had a huge album collection, and he put on some Led Zeppelin music. And I was, kind of singing and doing stuff. And I heard Robert Plant's voice, and I thought, oh my gosh, I gotta start doing that kind of thing, But the truth of the matter is that as I started to get into playing guitar, I was approached by some other guitar players that were really good. I mean, they put me to shame and basically just said, "Hey, can you play bass?" And I was like, "Well, my brother has a bass in his room. It was a old hollow body Conrad bass, a copy." And I said, "Hey, it's got 4 strings. How hard can it be? Right? It's got 2 less than what I'm learning on now." And I picked up a music book, Mel Bay, How to Play the Bass, and I learned bass runs, and it kind of all started from there.
You mean it's that easy? I can learn that. I have a bass,
Oh yeah, well yeah, it was interesting because in the beginning I thought the bass was very simplistic. And I thought it was just, people in the background, holding down the rhythm. The drummer is holding down the rhythm. The bass player is just, boom, 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 playing
together. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I started, at my brother's house, he put on Yes. And when he put Yes on, and I heard Chris Squire's bass, I was like, that's the bass. And then at the same time, he put the Who. He was a big Who fan, and he put the Who on. And when I heard songs like My Generation and The Real Me, and just, everything from John Entwistle blew me away. And, and then of course from there got into Rush, and that kind of
That's what I was going to
skyrocketed.
ask you about. Yeah, Rush, like when that happened, because I know that you're a huge Rush fan. But
Right.
let's take this back though. So you were playing instruments, but when did you know that you could sing and that was a route that you were going to go? Was that later or was that early too?
It was early because I liked singing in the very beginning, and then I really enjoyed playing the bass. And then I thought, there was back in that day, there was not a lot of singers out there. And, and the truth be told, I let's just say I don't feel this way now, but I felt back in the day that the singers that were out were, if you didn't play an instrument, then you really couldn't be that talented. That was my thing. I'm like, you're just singing. Because I thought everybody can sing. I didn't know that it was a specialized thing. I was always able to do it. I didn't know. I just always sang, and I thought everybody else sang. And then I was always like, well, yeah, I can just play the bass along with it and sing, and it's no big deal. And then later we'll get into the, how I changed my mind on that, because it is a good story on how that changed me. But that's what I did. I thought, yeah, I'm just going to sing and play and enjoy it.
So did you ever take like formal lessons of any instruments or vocal lessons?
No, I never did anything like that, which I regret, to this day. I tried taking a couple of vocal lessons in Chicago one time. And one, I couldn't afford it. And two, it just, it was a lot of, on the piano, da, 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 and all that. And I just thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put some Zeppelin on and start screaming that stuff and singing those songs. And, and then somebody in our band, we did cover songs, that were like, we don't want to do covers that are the average covers. We want to do all these more complicated songs because we thought of ourselves as more accomplished musicians. And then they said, well, let's play some Rush. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I thought, oh, that'd be so cool because I love Rush. And then I tried playing one of their songs and singing it at the same time and got really mad. I was so upset. I was like, how does this guy do it?
You singing Rush though is pretty like amazing. After our last podcast, matter of fact, I found the video that I had seen you in that band.
Right.
And it'd been so long ago, I had forgotten, but I found the video. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's him singing right now. It was really good.
That was cool. Yeah, that was cool that you found that. That was and that was a fun show that we did. That was fun. And so I mean, I did for a long period of time. I was doing that. I was playing. We used to play the entire side of 2112. I was doing a lot of shows. I practiced singing and playing at the same time, where I can just kind of focus on both at the same time instead of just one. It does take a lot of focus and a lot of concentration because, especially when you're doing songs like Rush and in a lot of Led Zeppelin, the words do not go with the music. So you're doing two totally different things, and that takes twice as much practice to kind of get down.
Now that you say that, I get that. I hear that.
Yeah.
That it's not the same, especially like Rush. I can definitely hear that.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of people that can't determine the differences between the bass and the guitar. But when you're listening to just the bass, or you're focusing on the bass, and then you're listening to the melody the bass is playing, and then the melody that the vocals are doing, sometimes they're two totally different things, and it becomes difficult.
I get it.
Yeah.
So you talk about Chicago, but where did you grow up? Like, what city did you grow up in?
I grew up in Chicago, in the heart of Chicago. Okay. Not a suburb. A lot of people say Chicago, but they were from a suburb of Chicago. I was definitely in the heart of the city.
That's scary. Well, it probably wasn't as scary when you were young, right? It's kind of scary now.
No, it was very scary.
It was still scary.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was very scary growing up at that time. And growing up back in the day, I had long hair, and it was there was a lot of gangs on the streets of Chicago.
Oh,
and there's not a lot, you don't see that really anymore out here. I'm sure it's probably still like that in Chicago, but the gangs in Chicago had certain blocks, areas that they patrolled. And, just for me to walk to school, because everybody walked to school in my day, there was no buses or anything. Everybody walked to school, and you usually had to walk a mile to a mile and a half or so, 2 miles just to get to school. And you had to pass through certain blocks that were gangs. And, it became rough. You had to kind of find your way to school. I did get jumped a couple of times.
That's terrible. How scary.
Yeah. So it was a rough area, but then, I never joined a gang. I became basically kind of cool with the gangs. That was, it was a thing. I wasn't in a gang, but I got to know certain people. And I'll tell you a quick story about the gangs. And I'm not going to name his name this time because I don't want to, I'll tell you privately, but just saying, there was a bridge in Chicago that I used to have to walk over almost every day. And as I walked over that bridge one day, I had heard Judas Priest, Sad Wings of Destiny, which is I fell in love with that album and Judas Priest. And I did what kind of every normal 16-year-old kid, or however old I was at the time, I took a little jacket and I wrote Judas Priest all over it. And I wrote, Sad Wings of Destiny. And I made this whole Judas Priest jacket. And I used to wear it. And one day I was walking over that bridge and there was a guy there. And the guy stopped me and he goes, "Hey, you like Judas Priest?" And I said, "Yeah, man, really cool. Sad Wings of Destiny, And we got to talking about music and stuff for a long time. And he said, "Hey, let me tell you something. You ever run into any problems over here, you just mention my name." And I was like, "All right, cool." I didn't know. I was a kid. I had no idea. Well, about 3 weeks later, I was walking over that bridge, and there was about 30 people standing on that bridge. And I walked on that bridge and I had my jacket on. I walked over that bridge and I got stopped. And they were like, "Hey, man, this is our area and we like your jacket." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you. I'm a dumb kid. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that." And they said, no, we want your jacket.
Oh, no.
And he goes, "And I like your watch too. I think I'm going to take that too." And I was like, "Oh, you like the jacket?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, hey, so did this guy." And I mentioned his name. And the guy was like, "You know him?" I said, "Oh, yeah, you can call him. You can go, Well, I didn't say call because we didn't have phones in that day. But yeah, you can talk to him. He'll vouch for me." And the whole bridge separated and they let me pass. And they said, "You have a pass. Anytime you want to come through, you can pass." And it was those kind of things that got me through with the gangs, and I must have probably somehow with my family, we had a big family, knowing a lot of gang members, the bigger of the gang members, got me through, in Chicago. It was great.
That's so scary to think about. So the music scene in Chicago. So when did you get into your first band? Did you start the band? Did you join a band? And where were you playing?
There was little things that we did in the very beginning, where we were up in our basement up in our attic or down in our basements trying to make music. And it just, kind of wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't happening. We didn't know anything about doing shows or stuff. We were just kind of playing around. And I was singing and goofing off and didn't know my voice. I was doing a lot of falsetto stuff, because I wanted to sound rock and roll. So I was, bah, 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 doing all that higher stuff.
Like
and I didn't,
Queen doesn't he do that?
Oh, Queen does a lot of falsetto. The Bee Gees, Barry Gibb did.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love BJ.
So it was all that kind of stuff because I thought that was rock and roll, But then I got into a cover band out there and named it Irony because it was just an irony that we were kind of all together and doing our thing. And it was fun. We played a lot of songs. we started actually doing shows and making things happen. And it was a lot of fun. It was great to do that. But then I wanted to do original music.
Well, I was going to get into that, but do you remember the first time you got paid for playing music?
The actual first time we got paid. Yeah, we didn't get paid for a long, long time. And actually what we had to do was we had to make fake IDs, because in order for us to get paid in certain places, we had to play in bars. And we made fake IDs, which was really odd at the time. We all had to get a state ID, and we got a state ID. And then we found a stencil that had letters and numbers on it with a little like a chisel that you would pound on top of the number. It was I don't know who figured it out, but we were changing our birthdays.
But not to drink alcohol to get paid. That is crazy.
Just to play in the bar. Yeah.
In the bar.
Yeah. Just to play in the bar.
That's funny.
Yeah. So we got in and we did our first, I think as a band, the four of us, I think we made $50.
Oh, wow. What year was this though? You probably don't want to say that. But what year was that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. This was probably mid 70s, and it was fun. You got that $50 and we were like, whoa,
I'm rich. So the original music, how old were you when you started doing that? And you write your own songs, right? So yeah. Did this all start around the same time, or?
No, the real original stuff really started happening when I was probably 23 years old or so. I was in my 20s, early 20s. And we started playing. We got together. And there was a lot of, bands happening before that. And then we just all kind of got together. I was a singer, bass player. I had a guitar player and a drummer. I had actually two guitar players and a drummer. And we got it back. We got together in a band and we started playing, and it was up in my house. We started playing up in the attic, and it was like, we kind of gelled. We were playing cover music. And then we said, hey, why don't we stop this? Let's write a song. And we wrote a song, and it took me probably 2 weeks to write the lyrics for that song.
So you did the music for it first and then the lyrics? Yeah.
So the music came first, and I didn't know what to write about. Everybody's writing about a love song. Everyone's writing about this and that. I wrote about, the marriage. I wrote about, the horrors of being married, kind of a situation, because I was going through a divorce at the time, I think. And
that's what I was gonna say. Were you even married? What was that? Where would that come from?
Yeah. And so the horrors of that I put into a song, and it was just crazy. It was kind of a comedy thing, but it was good. And I thought it was good. And I thought, wow, I could really do this. I really enjoy this. But, as we went into the studio, we started to go into the studio to get a recording of it. And I didn't understand studio work. And once, for people out there, once you first go into the studio, it's nerve-wracking because you don't understand. You're not playing and singing and doing all the stuff you would do on stage. Everything is separated, and it's just unnatural. It's just really weird and unnatural. Well, a couple of days after the studio, I show up for practice again at my house up in the attic, and there's a guy there, and he was, good looking guy, and muscles, long hair. We all had long hair. And they said, hey, this is Joe. He's going to sing a couple of things with us, because he's an old friend of ours. Oh, okay. So we start playing. We start jamming some songs. We're doing some Van Halen and Judas Priest and all this kind of stuff. And he's singing along, and I'm like, whatever. Okay. Are we, and then he said something to the effect of, well, as we get going on these songs, I'll be able to, know them better. And especially when we start to write the originals, I'll get to know them better. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I grabbed the other two guys in the band and I said, what's going on? Why is this guy here? And they said, look, we just thought he would be a good addition to the group if he became the singer and you just focused on bass. And I'm like, are you kidding me? What kind of a singer? The guy doesn't even play an instrument. Why would he? He just sings. That doesn't help any, And then they were like, I was really mad, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to step aside for somebody, and his name was Joe. And a little bit later, I think we got together and talked, and I said to him, I'm not happy about this. I said, I don't like stand-up singers. Okay. And he's like, well, okay, but let's just see how it goes. Let's write a couple of originals and let's see. And I said, fine, whatever. I'll keep an open mind. And we got together back in my house again and we started writing. And as my guitar player came in and started writing a riff, and then I jumped in with my bass and I said, okay, let's arrange it like this and do that. While we were going through the song, Joe was in the corner sitting down with a pad of paper. He got up as we were playing and he just said, keep going, keep going, keep going. We played over and over again. He jumped in and sang, and the lyrics were unbelievable to me. And wow. I was like, did you just write that? And he says, yeah, I can do it like that. I can just sit there and write while you guys are doing it and we'll get through the song. And his words, my words were so sophomoric, my words were, about funny stuff and, love this and marriage and I hate you and I love you and all this kind of stuff. This guy starts writing stuff about, desert eagles and how the thermals take the eagle in the sky and this and that. And I thought, that's phenomenal. And the way that he wrote and the melodies that he put into the songs allowed me to focus on the bass, and the songs were so much better. And that was like the beginning of the band Strychnine. And Joe Boo, the singer, he has gone on to do so many more things. We put out a lot of Strychnine music. There's a lot of Strychnine songs out there on video and on CD. And, he's gone on to do so much more music. And the guy's phenomenal when it comes to writing. And I was more than happy to step aside. And him and I harmonized very well together. So a lot of our songs, you can hear us going back and forth in the songs. And it was probably one of the greatest experiences, when it comes to doing original music I ever had.
So were you guys like playing all over locally, or did you go to different places? Or
yeah, so in Chicago when did we put out our? I think in 95, 96. I don't remember what year it was, but we put out our album, our Strychnine Theories and Principles album, and we used to play the Vic Theater. We played the Vic Theater actually the day after Skid Row played with Sebastian Bach, and we were at that show, which was great. And then we had our CD release party at the Riviera Theater, which held a lot of people. It was a big venue out there. It was a really big deal back in the day, and we had a great time. And now it's a big underground CD. There was only 1,000 of them made, and they go for a lot on eBay right now. But that was a great experience and a great CD.
How many do you have?
I probably have. I do have copies. I think I gave them out to some of the people when they showed up at my house to do the podcast early on, if I'm not mistaken.
You might have given me one.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I think I gave you a shirt also, and I think I gave Rex a CD also. I think I gave you one. Well, yeah, you should check it out and listen to. If you don't have one, I'll get you one.
Yeah,
but
I'll
it's yeah, it was a
I
lot
don't
of
have
fun.
a CD player though, so that's the issue.
I know,
so
right?
I just kind of put them like over in this spot. I need to get. It's the only thing I don't have a CD player.
No one does anymore, but yeah, but it was a lot of fun to do that. And then as the originals, as the band initially went our separate ways, then that's when I got involved with Arthur Landwehr, who was a person in Chicago, also a suburb of Chicago that we practiced with. And that's when I wrote all of the songs with him that I have out there now under Anton, Scholl and Friends. I just brought them all back and had different musicians playing on them, but that's how those songs all got written.
What is your favorite song that you've written?
Oh, it's hard to tell because you go back to the first one, which is Hold On, try to hold on because of the whole marriage thing. It's funny. And, it's kind of fun to think about that in that sense. But if you listen to the lyrics, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's kind of a comedic song. But then I started writing things about about my son. And I think the one song that I wrote is called Friends Till the End, which I think is probably one of my favorite because it reminds me. It started out as my one son who was always as a child, always played in his room by himself. He just enjoyed that. He just loved doing that. He was in daycare and he had friends and stuff, but he would be sitting in the room playing by himself with all these things. And then I would go to join him. And then I started thinking about, what if he, had imaginary friends or different personalities, what if different personalities came out in him? And not that he did that, but that was kind of how the song started. So Friends Till the End is just a song about a kid who's kind of by himself, but he has all these other personalities. So, he is the normal kid kind of just trying to get by, but then there's other personalities that come out when he gets angry or when he feels fear or when he gets sad. Other personalities kind of come out and take over and help him through all of these feelings and, that he goes through. And it's called Friends Till the End. So they're all friends, till the end.
Excuse me. Is that on Spotify or anywhere that I can look it up and listen to?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It is on Spotify and it's on YouTube. Also, we did put a video together on that Friends Till the End. And I re-recorded it with a band called Grove Street who did the music for me. So, just always getting in other musicians to play on the songs just so I can feature them.
So that's really cool. Who's your the biggest person you've played with? The most well-known?
That I actually jammed with?
Yes.
I mean, I've met a lot of people and I have stories of the people that I have met before. But as far as physically jamming with somebody, it's and I believe his name is Jim Martin, Faith No More. Oh. So when Faith No More came out with their famous song, I think it was Epic. I was at a party in Chicago and the guitar player was there and he said he loved Black Sabbath. And I said, well, hey, I know these musicians up here. Why don't let's jump on stage. And if you want to jam Black Sabbath, let's do it. And I'll sing it, and he's like, sure, let's do it. And I was like, wow, we're really going to do this. And he got up on stage and I'm over there scribbling down lyrics, because we didn't have cell phones at the time, You
didn't have the iPad in front of you?
No. You had to actually either memorize the lyrics or you had to write them in really big sheets and lay them on the floor, to know the lyrics. So we did War Pigs. So,
wow. I'm very familiar with that song. I grew up with that song.
So I can say that I did War Pigs with the guitars from Faith No More, and it was a great time.
That's fun. So as far as celebrity encounters or musicians, what was your favorite? Tell me a story about that.
Well, there's a lot of them. We probably don't have time in this particular thing. I mean, meeting the band Chicago and hanging out with them, and Crosby, Stills and Nash was a lot of fun to meet with. And the guitar players can appreciate, I was talking with Graham Nash, and he said, "Hey man, you want to see something?" Now remember, this is years and years ago, 80s or 90s, don't remember. But anyway, he said, "Hey, do you want to see something? I got a new guitar." And he brought out his guitar and he showed it to me, and it was a self-tuning guitar. And I said, "Well, what is that?" It had a bunch of buttons on the side of it. And he goes, "Yeah, I always detune, because a lot of guitar players, maybe the fans don't know about that, but a lot of guitar players tune the guitars differently. Everybody, is used to normal E tuning, but they tune their guitars differently to get a different sound." And he had a little button on there. It was like a robot guitar, and he would press the button. He'd say, "If I want to play in the key of C, I press this button," and then all the tuning heads changed, and it changed his tuning. And I thought that was the most phenomenal thing I've ever seen in my life. He shared it with me. I took a picture of it. And like 20 years later, Gibson came out with that actual guitar, and it was like the biggest flop that Gibson has ever seen. And I don't know why. We probably got to ask the guitar players as to why. Maybe it didn't stay in tune, whatever the case is, but people can certainly comment on that in the comments about why they didn't like that guitar. But when I saw it 20 years prior, I thought it was the coolest thing. But yeah.
Where did he get it 20 years before that? Where did he get that?
He had it made through Gibson. And it was a Gibson Les Paul, and it had the robot tuning on it. And Gibson did call it the robot guitar, I believe. But it just didn't do well at all. You can even ask Dane about it. Dane Zimmerman. You can ask him about that, because I know I had a conversation with him about that also. Thank you for joining our Living in the Limelight podcast with your host, Anton Scholl. Please feel free to comment, like, follow, share, and subscribe. And also add us to your playlist on your favorite streaming sites. Thanks again for joining, and we'll talk to you again next week.